The lawyer looked at my mother-in-law and said, "You need to hear page 3 before you leave this room." She was already halfway out of her chair. 3 weeks earlier, I had buried my husband alone. Not one member of his family showed up. Not his mother. Not his sister. Not his father. I stood at that grave with our 6-year-old daughter's hand in mine, and I told myself I would never let them see me cry. Today, they were about to hear exactly why that mattered. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted, hit the like button now. If you've ever stayed silent while someone underestimated you, comment here below, and subscribe to Story Retribution, because today's ending proves that karma always arrives, just not when people expect it. My name doesn't matter. What matters is that I loved a man named Daniel for 11 years, and his family never once believed I loved him for the right reasons. Daniel and I met in college. He came from money. Old money. The kind with a family trust and a lake house and a mother who introduced herself using her husband's last name like a title. I came from a 2-bedroom apartment and a single mother who worked 2 jobs. From the very first dinner, his mother, Eleanor, looked at me the way you look at something you're about to return to the store. "She'll be gone in a year," I heard her whisper to Daniel's sister Vanessa at our engagement party. "Girls like that don't marry for love." Daniel married me anyway. Eleanor never forgave either of us for it. For 11 years, she found small ways to remind me I didn't belong. She forgot to invite me to family photos. She introduced me to her friends as Daniel's wife, never by name. At my daughter Mia's christening, Eleanor sat in the front row and told the priest, loud enough for me to hear, "I hope she at least knows how to raise a child properly." Daniel apologized for his mother more times than I can count. "She'll come around," he always said. She never did. Then came the accident. A drunk driver ran a red light. Daniel died on his way home from picking up Mia's birthday cake. I called Eleanor myself at 2 a.m, my voice breaking on every word. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Well, I suppose you'll need help planning the funeral." That was it. No tears, no questions about her son. Just an assumption that I'd need her to take over, the way she'd tried to take over everything else. I didn't ask for her help. I planned the funeral myself, and she didn't come. Not Eleanor, not Vanessa, not Daniel's father, Richard. My daughter stood at her father's casket in a black dress, asking me why her grandmother wasn't there, and I had no answer that wouldn't break her heart further. Later, I found out why. Vanessa had posted in the family group chat, the one I wasn't in, but Daniel's cousin Tara secretly sent me screenshots of everything. Vanessa wrote, "Why would we go? She's not really family. She got what she wanted, his money. Let her bury him alone." Eleanor had replied with a single laughing emoji. I read that message the night before the funeral and didn't sleep. But I didn't scream. I didn't call and confront them. I put my phone down, kissed my sleeping daughter goodnight, and I let them believe exactly what they wanted to believe. Because Daniel had left something behind that they didn't know about. 3 weeks after the funeral, his lawyer, Mr. Holloway, called the entire family into his office for the reading of the will. Eleanor arrived in a cream-colored suit, sunglasses on despite being indoors, already talking about logistics before she'd even sat down. "I assume the house goes to Mia," she said, glancing at me like I was an afterthought. "And I'd like the lake property discussed separately. Richard and I have some ideas." Mr. Holloway didn't answer her. He simply opened a folder and said, "Before we go through the assets," Daniel left a letter. He asked that it be read aloud, in full, to everyone present. Eleanor waved a hand. "Is that necessary? We're all very busy people." "He was very specific," Mr. Holloway said. "Page 3, if anyone tries to leave early." Vanessa laughed under her breath. Dramatic, even from the grave. Mr. Holloway began to read. "To my mother, my father, and my sister," Daniel's letter started, and I watched Eleanor's smile falter for the first time. "If you're hearing this, it means I'm gone, and you're sitting in a room expecting something from me. So let me tell you what I actually want you to know." The room went silent. For 11 years, I watched my wife absorb every insult you gave her with more grace than any of you have ever shown anyone. I watched my mother call her a gold digger at our engagement party and say it again at our daughter's christening. I have witnesses. I have the text messages. I kept them, not out of bitterness, but because I always knew this day might come, and I wanted the truth on record. Eleanor's face had gone pale. "This is absurd," she said, but her voice cracked on the word. Mr. Halloway kept reading. "I have a screenshot from my sister, sent the night before my funeral, saying my wife should bury him alone because she's not really family. I have my mother's response. Would anyone like me to read it aloud, or should we skip to the part where you explain that to my daughter?" "Wait, what?" Richard said, turning to Vanessa. "You said what?" Vanessa's face drained of color. That was private. That wasn't meant for anyone to see the truth?" Mr. Halloway said calmly, still reading Daniel's words. "That's exactly the point." Eleanor stood up. "I don't have to listen to this." "Actually," Mr. Halloway said, "you do. Page 3 is a condition of the estate. If you leave before it's finished, the terms change automatically." Daniel was very specific with his attorney about that as well. She sat back down. Slowly, silently. For the first time in 11 years, I watched Eleanor have nothing to say. The letter continued. "My wife never once asked me for a cent that wasn't already ours together. She worked 2 jobs while I finished my degree. She raised our daughter while my family pretended she didn't exist. So here is what I've decided. The house and the majority of our joint assets go to my wife and daughter, as they always would have. But the family trust distribution, the portion my mother has spent years assuming would come to her, goes instead to the Ridgeview Community Foundation. That organization gave my wife and me the venue for our wedding for free, back when we had nothing, because they believed 2 people in love deserved a chance regardless of what was in their bank account. They believed in us when my own family didn't. My mother, my father, and my sister will each receive exactly $1, not because I want to humiliate you, but because inheritance is supposed to be a reflection of who showed up for someone in life, and none of you showed up, not once." Mr. Halloway closed the folder. Nobody spoke. Vanessa was crying, but not the kind of crying that asks for forgiveness. The kind that realizes there's no version of this story where she comes out looking innocent. Richard stared at the floor like it might open up and let him disappear into it. Eleanor turned to me, her voice small in a way I had never heard before. "Did you know about this?" "No," I said honestly. "He never told me. He just knew what you were, long before either of us wanted to admit it." Tara, the cousin who had sent me those screenshots for months, quietly, at her own risk, stood up beside me for the first time in front of the whole family. "I told you this would catch up to you," she said to Vanessa. "I told you to stop." Eleanor didn't yell. She didn't cry. She just sat there pale, frozen, turning her wedding ring on her finger, like it was the only thing keeping her hands from shaking. I didn't gloat. I didn't say anything cruel. I stood up, took Mia's hand from where she'd been quietly coloring in the corner of the office, and I looked at the woman who had spent a decade deciding I wasn't worth her respect. "He saw everything," I said, "even when none of you thought he was watching." Then I walked out. I didn't look back to see their faces. I didn't need to. I already knew what they looked like. The same look people get when they finally understand that the people they underestimated were paying closer attention than anyone. 6 months later, the Ridgeview Community Foundation named a new family scholarship after Daniel, for couples who get married with nothing but love and a borrowed venue. Mia and I go to the ceremony every year. Eleanor has never called. I don't expect she ever will. But I've stopped waiting for an apology that was never going to come. Daniel gave me something better than that. He gave me the truth in front of everyone, on his own terms. And he made sure that when the story of our marriage was finally told in full, it wasn't his family who got to write the ending. It was him. And in the end, it was me. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button right now. Tell me in the comments, what would you have done in my situation? If you enjoy stories about family betrayal, emotional drama, shocking revenge, and the justice that always finds its way back, subscribe to Story Retribution and turn on the bell so you never miss the next story. Tomorrow's story might be even more unbelievable. See you then.